Georgie, aren't you going to say hello? Oh, come on, Bucko. Don't you want a balloon?
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Morose Project. I'm Brad Rosen.
I'm Aaron Moore.
Oh snap, folks, he's back!
What?
Woo! Welcome back, man.
Appreciate you.
I would act like we haven't seen each other in a week or so, but that's not the case. We just didn't record the last time we hung out. We're allowed to be friends, people. We don't always have to record.
We don't always have to be friends either.
It's true. I just think it's funny because that night we hung out, we ran into a couple of our friends, and both of them said, "Oh, are you guys recording tonight?" And I was like, we don't have to record every time we hang out. Although, usually we do.
Fair. Becoming the basis of this friendship.
Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, just gives us more reason to hang out, right?
I guess.
Alright, so let's get it started.
Here.
First off, we didn't get to talk about this because we had a special guest, and then I was by myself last week, solely just because I had a miniature panic attack. But I finished. I finished Daredevil. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. That season finale was amazing.
He's gay for it.
You would know.
It's my special thing.
And then I've started Jessica Jones. I think I'm 6 episodes in on that. It's really good too. I think I like it more than Daredevil. It has hands down one of my favorite things I've seen in a superhero movie or TV show.
Titties?
Well, that would help, but no. Jessica Jones, like these people, she's a private investigator, and she has superpowers. She's like super strong, and she can jump really high and do some other stuff. They haven't quite explained everything she can do yet, but those are like 2 of the things she's done in multiple episodes. So these people hire her, and then you find out like they hired her because they have family who died in the alien invasion at the end of the first Avengers movie. And they, even though she had nothing to do with it, just because they somehow know she has superpowers, they kind of blame her, so they like try and kill her. Mm-hmm. And then like, instead of hurting them, she just freaks out. She throws shit everywhere, and she's like breaking walls and everything because she's really strong, and she just like has this monologue about how everybody loses people, and like, you're not special, you know, we've all lost people, like, and you don't get to just do this to me just because I'm different. And I was like, oh, I loved it so much. It was like perfect. So that was really cool. Damn it. But so I'll finish that soon. I don't know exactly when yet, because with school it's harder to binge watch a TV show. That was an
I know, but you
not
wanted to.
only because I caught that it was gonna be an so I just went Yeah. But it was very I enjoy it so far, is basically what I was saying. Speaking of the last time we hung out together, we watched the first two Halloween movies, the original and the sequel to the original. I've seen both of them a million times. You mentioned that you had actually seen the second one not too long ago, but had you ever seen the first one?
If I did, it was a long ass time ago. Very young, and I didn't really remember much of it.
Yeah. So, I briefly explained this in the last one, but I started listening to a podcast called How Did This Get Made? And they watch, at first I think it started out as just watching bad movies, and they, talked about it, but then they also got into movies that are so ridiculous and over the top. Like, it's amazing that somebody didn't come in and try and be like, calm this down. You're doing too much. And I don't quite feel this way about the movies, but I thought it'd be interesting to take a look at these movies through the eyes of somebody who's not a super fan like I am. So that's why we watched the first two, and we're gonna try and do it with all the Halloween series, and then we're gonna work our way toward Nightmare on Elm Street, because I have seen all the Nightmare on Elm Streets, but the only ones I really remember are the original and the remake and the new Nightmare, and Freddy vs. Jason, which I don't know if that one really counts to you or not, but that's probably my favorite, other than the original, obviously.
I really like that one. It's hard to group it with one of them. I would say it's more Freddy's story than it is Jason. So
Yeah.
I'd put it with Nightmare on Elm Street, if you're gonna group it.
Yeah, that's fair. I would agree with that.
Since he's trying to use Jason to come back.
Yeah. So, the first Halloween, what are your opinions on it? I'll just say, I didn't, we both took notes. You took a lot more than I did. Well, not a lot more. You did definitely take more than I did. So, let's hear some thoughts.
Well, you mentioned that I'm not a super fan. I'm just going to say that horror is my favorite genre, and as far as the Halloween series goes, I'm not really a fan at all. I know that saddens you a little bit.
It,
because you love them
breaks
so
my
much.
heart. Although, to be fair, the Halloween series, kind of started the slasher movement. So, without Halloween, we wouldn't have a lot of the... We might still have Freddy, but we definitely wouldn't have Jason, because Jason's a direct ripoff.
Yeah, I get that. It's just still... Yeah,
Maybe by the end of this, you'll change your mind. Although, if you don't love the first one, then probably no hope for you, because the first one's... And granted, it was made in the 70s, so it has its faults, but I still think it holds up the best.
plus the budget was a little small.
Yeah, the budget was like $300,000,
Yeah.
which even
in
in the 70s, that
still
was a
kinda
very
small.
low budget.
Yeah. My first issue, right off the bat, granted it happens in every single slasher or horror movie ever, is that typical titty shot at the beginning.
Well, leading up to that typical titty shot is what has to be, even for a movie, the fastest sex ever. Because they go
Yeah.
upstairs, and then Michael goes in the house, and immediately he's going down the stairs, oh, that was
Yeah.
quick.
I mean, new definition
And she's
of
totally
quickie.
naked, but
Yeah,
it looked like
completely.
he only took off his shirt. Which, I guess is possible. I don't know how everybody does it, but...
Handies were still a thing in the 70s. I don't know. And also, like the titty bitch,
I only
she
have
was
two.
horrible at dying. Horrible. I mean, her arms were flailing and her screaming was off. I don't know. It didn't convince me that she was
Titty
getting...
bitch.
It didn't convince me that she was getting stabbed to death.
That's fair. I will also say that I don't know where he was stabbing her, because, it must have been the stomach or something. It definitely wasn't in the chest or anything, because
No.
the first, you would have seen, obviously there ended up being blood up there, but you would have seen, it would have been a higher stabbing motion if it was the chest.
He definitely earned his Red Wings that night. So we all know that Michael Myers, we saw that he escaped from the asylum.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Dr. Loomis, the dude who plays Dr. Loomis, whether it's the writing or whatever, his character is just a little batshit himself.
Well, you would be too after taking care of this psycho for 15 years. I will say, and this is my only other note I have on the whole first movie, when he breaks her window, when he steals the car, you can see the wrench in the guy's hand as he smacks the window.
It looks bad.
I have more notes on Halloween too, but that's literally I have the fastest sex ever and the note about the wrench breaking the window are the only two things I have about the first movie. And I know there were other problems, but, and I even said this as we were watching it, I was like, I love it so much, I don't even care.
Well, half the shit I wrote down, I can't even remember why I wrote it down. I didn't go into that much detail. When he is first stalking Jamie Lee's character, and he's like hiding behind that bush, like it's so apparent. Like how did that other chick just like not see him?
She was looking somewhere else.
Right, but even like in your peripherals, you're gonna see some fucking gigantic dude just chilling there at the bush.
I guess so.
I mean, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Oh well, on to the next thing. And
I will also say, sorry to interrupt, he had the mask before he robbed the store and stole the mask, which doesn't make a lot of sense unless he, like, had that mask and then he stole another mask later. I don't know. But fun fact, for any of you who don't know, that mask was originally a William Shatner Captain Kirk mask that they bleached. And I forget what they did to the hair, but obviously that hair is not the Captain Kirk hair, although it's just as real as the wig he wore back then. Actually, that might have been his real hair back then, but he's definitely bald now.
Definitely.
Anyway, continue.
So on to the next thing, because it was the next thing. Let's get that one. I get what they're trying to do with the whole psychological horror. Like you got some crazy ass person chasing after you with retard strength. It's just not scary. It's not.
By our standards, it's not. I'll agree with that. But I mean, to be honest, I've never found any horror movie ever scary.
No.
Like, sure, there'll be that, like, sudden, like, dum, and, like, you know, it'll make you jump. I hope to God I made somebody jump right there. That would be awesome. But, like, nothing truly scary. But, like, I don't know. I mean, in the 70s, the idea was probably scary.
It could have been. But even, like, I'm not talking, like, I'm scared. I'm saying the idea of it being scary. It's not scary to me. Like,
really? Like, some dude
take Freddy.
Following you and murdering you isn't scary? Watching you...
I mean, he's just a person.
Yeah, but he's super strong. He's the boogeyman. They say it multiple times. They fucking,
those children screaming at the window.
Yeah. God, that little kid... Like, he's not terrible, especially compared to some of the other little kids. Compared to the other little kids in that movie.
Did you just say that a child actor was not terrible?
There are some that are not bad.
I've never heard you not bitch about a child actor.
I can't wait till 5. There is, like, one of the worst child actors ever in 5. And I just can't wait to get your feelings on him. It's gonna be funny.
He's better than Carl.
Well, everybody's better than Carl. But the worst part, to me, as far as that kid's acting goes, is when he's screaming at that window. I think that's terrible. Like, the rest of it is kind of, sort of, almost believable. But, that definitely is not.
But yeah, compared to other things, like Jason coming back, and, Freddy, like, he's literally the epitome of, like, scary, in my opinion. I mean, there's almost no escape from him. You can't not sleep.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you try not to, eventually you're gonna die.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. My problem with Freddy, and it's not so much in the original, but definitely in all the sequels, is he's too much of a jokester. And, like, that's obviously what sets him apart from, like, Jason and Michael and everybody. Mm-hmm. But, like, I feel like in some movies it works well, but in most of the movies, like, that's the worst part, is the part that he does, the fact that he does talk.
Yeah.
And he says some stuff.
And funny enough, that's like one of the main reasons I love him. Like, he's not just like slowly chasing you from a distance. And he's either like right there beside you, or he is at that distance. But either way, like, he's got you.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a character, not just some shadow in the background.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, maybe it all stems from the fact that I saw Halloween first, but
That could be.
I don't know. I enjoy most of the Freddy. Well, not. I'd say as far as I can remember, I liked half the Freddy movies, and I did not like the other half.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I like all of the Halloween movies, and obviously to varying extents, except for the third one, but that one doesn't count because Michael Myers isn't in it, so it's not a real Halloween movie. But we are still going to talk about it because
we will.
You have to see it, and I have to see it. It's been so long for me that even I don't remember what it's about.
My last note on that is not really about the movie itself. It's more about you. And I feel like this is where your fear of clowns stems from.
No,
Little Michael.
It's not.
I don't mean MJ. That's pretty scary.
I can actually tell you what my fear of clowns stems from. I was 1 year old, and I have the pictures to prove it. I wish that I had them on my computer, because I would totally put them on this video. But I had a 1-year-old birthday party, and, like, my birthday cake was a clown cake, and, like, you just see me in one of the pictures, and, like, my hand's on the cake, and I'm just fucking, like, crying like crazy. And I honestly, I think that is where it comes from.
So just, like, day one of Darb.
Yeah.
No clowns.
Year one. Like, it's funny, though. So moving on to Halloween 2, and definitely, if you haven't ever seen any of these movies, like, if you're a horror fan, I would say you have to. Even, it's fine if you don't like it, because not everybody's gonna like everything. But I'd say the original Halloween, the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first Nightmare on Elm Street, I don't know if I'd say the first or second Friday the 13th, because the second one is the first one with Jason. But those are definitely some, and obviously like Psycho and stuff, but those are some of the classics that if you are a horror fan, you have to see at some point in your life. Okay, so Halloween 2 picks up right where Halloween 1 left off, and spoiler. Yeah, it picks up, like, before the end of Halloween 1. Like, it's funny, though, because you can tell that they reshot it, because this is my first note of the movie, and spoilers for the end of the first Halloween if you haven't seen it, but, Dr. Loomis shoots Michael 6 times at the end of the first one, and then he's just gone. But in this one, he shoots him 7 times, even though he's holding a 6-round revolver. But he doesn't go to the window and look out and see Michael's gone. He immediately runs downstairs, and then he's, like, surprised that he's gone, even though the end of the first one, like, showed that he wasn't surprised that Michael was gone. So that was a little annoying. But because it's John Carpenter and Deborah Hill wrote the first and second one, and John Carpenter directed the first but did not direct the second, so I guess the change in directors kind of changed that up a little bit.
To go on with your attention to detail, as far as the director goes, when you say he falls out the window, it's from the second story.
Oh,
and
yes.
And he goes over the balcony. Well, as he's going out onto the balcony, you get a shot from outside, and instead of like falling over the railing, like tripping, he literally just like you can tell that he's walking up a ramp to fall off of it.
You mentioned that when we watched it, and I laughed so hard because and I'm sure I noticed it before, but I never really thought about it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh my god, that's so hilarious. Because you're right, it's clear as day. Like, it's not like, oh, he got shot and tripped over the thing. He totally walked backwards up a little ramp or something. And
I could watch a GIF of that all day.
I hope there is one. That would be perfect.
I'm sure there is.
But anyway, when I just have this because I thought this line was so funny and cheesy that I just had to make note of it. When Dr. Loomis goes outside after shooting Michael, like one of the neighbors comes out, and Dr. Loomis is like, call the police and, get the sheriff here immediately or whatever. And the neighbor goes, is this some kind of joke? I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight, which, I don't think, even in this is still supposed to take place in the 70s, but it was shot, like, in 80 or 81, so it's a couple years later filming-wise, but like I said, it takes place the exact same night of the first one, so it's still supposed to be the 78. But I don't even think back then that was the same.
Yeah.
But and my favorite part, though, is Dr. Loomis says, you don't know what death is. And then Michael goes, like, a couple blocks down or whatever, and he goes into a woman's kitchen and steals her she's making a giant ass, and you pointed out that maybe it was because she was cutting ham with this giant knife, which I never paid attention to before. I always just thought, like, why is she making a sandwich with that giant ass knife? Because I never noticed the big slab of ham that was sitting there.
Well, it's also that iconic butcher's knife.
Yeah, obviously. Like, for the movie, it makes sense. It just, like, logically, it doesn't make sense. But, so he grabs it, and then he gets a little bit of blood on her sandwich and some other part of the counter or whatever, and the lady, like, touches it and screams. And the neighbor runs out, and she, like, calls to see if she's okay. But she doesn't, like, really check. She just yells out, and then she immediately goes back into her house. And she's on the phone or whatever, and she's so nonchalant about it, but she's like, oh, her husband probably got mad and started hitting her again. I was like, is that just cool? Like, I know it's the 70s, but I would still think, spousal abuse is not cool. But she just didn't care. She's like, oh yeah, she probably deserved it, that old bitch.
I'm gonna actually cut you off right there. Because I have a note of that exact moment. That bitch that's, like, on the phone, alright, he's, like, 10 feet away from her. Alright, how the fuck can she not see him? Like, I get that he's in the shadows.
Yeah.
But he's, like, 7 feet tall.
It's true.
And he has, like a bright-ass white shit-no mask.
Yeah. I don't know. She's clearly not paying. She had to get back to that phone call. She couldn't even really check on her neighbor, so she's not going to look around. I don't know why I wrote this, because I'm sure it has something to do with something that happened in this movie that also happens in Nightmare on Elm Street, but I wrote down this movie was made 3 years before Nightmare on Elm Street. So, like, I'm almost curious to go back and just watch that beginning, just so I can figure out what happened, because I'm sure what I'm saying is, oh, Nightmare on Elm Street had a similar, not necessarily plot, but maybe a similar character, or a similar line of dialogue or something. So I don't know, I just thought that was kind of funny. And then we go a little bit forward, and one of the characters who died in the first movie is getting taken out of the house, and as we saw her die in the first movie, she closed her eyes, but then in this one, her eyes are open again, and her dad, her dad, who's also the sheriff, closes her eyes when they bring the body outside of the house, which just, like, again, it's just little things, but, you just see it and it bugs you.
Yeah. I really enjoy it when the director pays attention to minute details like that.
Yeah.
And when they don't, it really does bug me.
That's true, for sure. And then also I just wrote, this happens a little bit later, and if I'm jumping ahead of anything you have to say, just let me know. But,
No.
a few minutes later, they're in the hospital cafeteria, and one of the EMTs who took Lori to the hospital, there's the younger, creepier guy who's, always trying to hit on her, even though she just almost got murdered. But then there's the older one who's, banging the nurse or whatever, who's, literally in the middle of the cafeteria smoking a joint, which I thought was hilarious. And, I know it's the 70s and people did that kind of stuff, but, I don't know, I would still think maybe not in the hospital cafeteria. And, I would still think...
Well, it's, the perfect place, though. I mean, where do you get the munchies?
I guess so. You can get that grade F meat.
I've had grade F meat.
Oh. And then also in the Halloween decorations in the cafeteria, there were just pineapples. I don't know why. I've never thought of pineapples as Halloween or even autumn related. I would think since pineapple is tropical, it would be more of a summer thing. But, I don't know. There were just pineapples in the middle of the Halloween decorations for whatever. And then the last note I have, which, there's lots of other little things. But the last note I have is, in those 3 years, Jamie Lee Curtis got really sexy. Even though she's supposed to be exactly the same, the same age and everything, I don't know what it is, but she looks a lot sexier in the second one than she did in the first one. Which I'm not complaining, I just thought it was kind of funny. Especially, maybe you don't notice it when it's been a couple years since you've seen the first one, but when you watch the two back-to-back, it's, a noticeable difference.
Mm-hmm. The only other note I have is actually a positive note, is that they found out the hottest way to drown. In that boiling pool.
Yeah. See, I always took it as she didn't really drown. I just, assumed she got boiled to death or whatever. But, yeah,
That's fucking hilarious, though.
That was pretty nasty. Also, there's another thing, which is kind of an iconic thing that they would do in a few of the Halloween movies, but it makes less sense here because usually he does it with the knife, but in this one he does it with a scalpel. He just stabs a woman in the back and then, lifts her up. And, because usually has the big butcher knife, it's more okay, maybe that could happen. Clearly it never really could, but it's more forgivable. And with a big-ass butcher knife, but with a teeny tiny scalpel, and especially because he lifts her up and she never goes farther back onto
Exactly,
it.
yeah.
But I don't know. I bet he just probably, the director just thought, oh, this would be cool because her shoes fall off. And, I don't know.
Yeah.
Which, I guess since they were, not full shoes, I guess that would happen, but it's just very random to me. But, so, would you say that this one was more or less scary than the first one? Definitely more death and more gore.
Mm-hmm. I do like the second one more, just because, yes, more death, more gore. Still, it's not scary.
Fair enough. Well, I can promise you right now, the only thing scary about the third one will be how bad it is. Or, you'll be, so scared, you'll be like, how did this happen? How did they let people make this movie?
Who directed the third one?
I forget his name. He's gone on to do other stuff. I think he might have directed it, the clown movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
Well, I know you know, but maybe for some reason people listening don't know.
Yeah, okay.
I doubt it, but maybe. But I think he directed it. I could be wrong. I have a computer on my lap. Why don't I look it up? You want to talk for a minute while I do this?
Not really.
Actually,
I hate these people.
I got an idea. Well, while I look it up, we'll move on to the next subject, which, oops, that's not how you spell Halloween. So apparently, Taylor Swift and Tom Hiddleston broke up today. Or it was announced today. I guess that doesn't necessarily mean they broke up today. And as you and most other people know, I absolutely hate Taylor Swift.
I do know that.
Tommy Lee Wallace is the director's name. He also wrote the screenplay for Halloween 3.
Oh, okay.
And he did direct it.
Told you.
But, so, what got me thinking of, well, you know, as I read that, and I knew, but I don't really usually care or pay attention to that kind of stuff that much, especially with Taylor Swift, because she's constantly breaking up with people, like, 5 days after she starts dating them, just so she can get a new album. But what I will say about this is I actually like Tom Hiddleston, because he played Loki in the Thor movies and the first Avengers, and he was in something else that I thought he was good in, and they were wanting him to be the next James Bond, which I think would be awesome if it did happen. But it just got me thinking a little bit about how when he started dating her, I liked him a little bit less than I used to. And
I never liked Tom Hiddleston.
Really?
Yeah.
Even though he plays Loki, and you love the Thor movies and character and everything? Wow.
Yeah, I don't like him.
For any particular reason?
You look at any point of view of his face, and it is pointed as fuck.
Well,
he's got a pointed chin, that pointed nose, pointed cheekbones. Everything's pointed. And I don't know. I have a weird feeling about him.
That's fair, I guess. I don't know. He seems like a good dude. He's always doing, like, charity and everything. And he seems to be funny from what I've seen. But anyway, so, yeah, I don't know. It got me thinking of, you know, like, anybody who dates Justin Bieber, I automatically think less of. And obviously I was never a big Selena Gomez fan, so the fact that she constantly dated him wasn't really a big deal. Or, you know, like now, anybody who dates Chris Brown after he beat up Rihanna, I think is a terrible person, terrible judge of character, and just, like, either really after that money or really dumb. But is there anybody, like, who you thought less of when they started dating somebody?
No, because I don't really pay attention to that shit.
That's fair. I'll say this, and I know it's a bit of a controversial thing to say, but I actually, and not because I like Angelina Jolie, because I don't, but I think Jennifer Aniston is a worse person than people realize. So I was actually kind of happy when Brad Pitt left her. I was happy for him, I should say. Because I don't know, she just seems like she's trying really hard to be nice, but I don't think she really is. And I think maybe that's why it took her so long to actually find somebody after Brad Pitt to marry her. And good luck to that dude, because he's a decent screenwriter and a good actor. He's on The Leftovers on HBO, which I've never watched, but I heard is really good. And I hear he's really good on it. But, so yeah, I guess that's all. If you don't have anybody, then I guess that's all I have to say about that subject.
Yeah, I'm kind of a bad gay.
Yeah, right. So, this next subject, it's a little bit old news, if you're like me and you try and keep up on all the comic book related stuff, but maybe you're not like me.
I try not to.
So last week, they released a video, and it's from the Justice League set, but they say it might not be for the Justice League movie. And it's like 30 seconds, and it's not actual video. It's like somebody recording with their phone one of the monitors of what they were filming, and what they were filming was Deathstroke, who, for those of you who don't know, Deathstroke is a DC Comics villain who's like a mercenary. He's somewhat the inspiration for Deadpool, is kind of a spoof of him, while at the same time being almost an exact ripoff of him. So he's kind of like the DC version of Deadpool, and he did come first. So it's not like Deadpool you know, it's not like they ripped Deadpool off. Deadpool was a rip-off of him. But I think he's a fine, like, secondary villain. So the rumor is that even though it was shot on the set of Justice League, is that he's actually going to be the bad guy for the Batman solo movie that they're doing with Ben Affleck writing and directing.
Yay.
Which I'm actually excited for, because, you know, Ben has been a really good writer and director, and you know, as much as I have problems with him in Batman vs. Superman, I think he's the best Batman we've seen yet.
He's a hot daddy.
Yeah, you've said that before.
I'll say it again. He's a hot daddy.
But, so my problem with Deathstroke is I think he's a very good secondary villain. So, like, if he is in Justice League and he's just, like, a guy that they have to deal with in the beginning or the middle of the movie before they get to the actual bad guy, or if he's like that in the Batman movie, I'm 100% okay with him being in it. But if he's the main villain of the Batman movie, I think that's a terrible choice. I don't think he has enough credit or weight to his character to be the main bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that they're trying to do something different. You know, they're trying not to do the Joker again. They're trying not to do, like, Penguin or Bane or
Catwoman.
the Riddler or Catwoman or anybody. And I get that, and I respect that. But, you could redo a character who was done terribly, like Poison Ivy or...
Poor Uma Thurman.
Or, Mr. Freeze. Ice to see you. And Mr. Freeze would be such a good character if done right. Or you could do, like, I really enjoyed Jim Carrey's version of the Riddler, but I think you could do a more serious version of the Riddler. Or you could do a totally new character who hasn't been done at all. That's totally fine too. But A, I don't think Deathstroke is strong enough to be that bad guy, and B, and this is more probably a problem with me and, you know, other people who watch the show, but the whole time all I'll be thinking of is he as good as the Deathstroke on Arrow. And more than likely, he won't be. Unless, and there is a rumor that Joe Manganiello from True Blood, he played the werewolf, the main werewolf. There's obviously lots of werewolves. What was his name?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Another sexy daddy, though.
But the rumor is that he's going to be Deathstroke. And I really like that dude. I've seen him in other stuff. Nothing that I can think of off the top of my head, but...
I'm going to look that bitch
So,
up.
I really like him. So I think he'd be a great choice to be Deathstroke, but I still don't think Deathstroke is a good enough character. I mean... Fuck, dude, you could do, like, the Mad Hatter would be an excellent character, which they kind of did a little bit in the Jim Carrey Riddler Batman, because Riddler's mind control thing's kind of what Mad Hatter is all about. He's all about mind control, but I think that could work really well. They could pick from the New 52 and do, like, the Court of Owls. That would be awesome. Or, you know... Like, Batman has, like, 77 years of history you could pick from.
Yeah.
Like, you could easily find a villain. And, you know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Deathstroke will be great. But I honestly feel like he's only good enough to be a secondary villain.
There's an issue with secondary villains, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes away from having that main villain. And we saw that with, like, Spider-Man.
Yeah, but here, I don't mean, like, secondary. I mean, like, he's an obstacle before they get to the main one. Like, he's a mercenary, so maybe he was hired by the main villain. I think that could work really well. Or, like, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because I'm scared to death. They've announced, for the new Spider-Man, they've announced Shocker, Vulture, and now they're saying there's a third mystery villain who's never been in a live-action Spider-Man movie who might be in this new Spider-Man movie, and I'm like, it's in Marvel's hands, and the new Spider-Man was one of my favorite parts of the Civil War movie, even though he was only in it for like 20 minutes. him, Black Panther, and Ant-Man were my 3 favorite parts.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the movie, but they were hands down my 3 favorite parts. And I think he's the best version of Spider-Man we've had. I know some people disagree with me, but, like...
I agree.
He's a kid,
Yeah.
which is exactly what Spider-Man is.
And he looks like a kid.
Which, yeah, because the dude who plays him is really, like, you know, I think he's, like, 16 or 17, so he's a kid.
Yeah.
Which means, you know, because Toby was fine, but he was, like, already late 20s or something when the first time he played him. So he was already, like, almost 40 by Spider-Man 3, even though he was supposed to, like, just be out of college or something. And then Andrew Garfield was younger, and I actually really liked his version. In the first one, I didn't like the second Amazing Spider-Man very much, but he was still good. I just didn't like the rest of the movie. But, you know, this kid is actually a kid, which I think is good, because that means you can do maybe 2 movies where he's in high school instead of him having to graduate at the end of the first one because your actor's already balding.
Yeah, and he's gonna bring that immaturity to the set,
which I love because like that's exactly what Spider-Man is.
Yeah.
And I know,
sassy,
yes,
he
is.
Sassy piece of shit.
Which is exactly why I liked Andrew Garfield version better, because in the first Amazing Spider-Man, like, he's beating up a thug, and the guy pulls out a knife, and he's like, "Oh no, my one weakness, tiny knives." And then he webs him to a wall, and then I forget if he punches him or he webs him, but he hits him in the balls. It's so hilarious. And so I'm really excited for the new Spider-Man, but I am also worried a little bit because I feel like they're doing too many... I think they're doing too many villains for sure, but I also think they're just doing too many characters because they've got... There's a rumor that Disney Channel girl is going to be Mary Jane. There's rumors that... Or, you know, they've announced a bunch of people who are going to be in it who could just be, like, non-characters, like just people he's at the high school with. Donald Glover, who I love, is going to be in it. And when they rebooted Spider-Man a couple years ago, he was in the running to be Spider-Man.
That would have been amazing. I would have loved
I would
Donald
love
Glover.
it so much if they put him in as Miles Morales. And so then maybe in a future one, there could be 2 Spider-Mans. Or maybe they could spin him off or something. It probably won't happen, but I would love it if it did.
By the time it happened, I feel like Donald Glover would be too old.
Yeah, he is. Like, I think he's only in his late 20s now. But
it's still a little too old for Spider-Man.
Yeah, especially if we had to wait a couple movies before it happened, which we probably would, because...
Be like a decade.
Yeah, with the way the Marvel Universe works out is everything, you know, they have a very specific order of how they want their movies to come out.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but I'm definitely interested in this movie. And I don't know what that was. Shut up. So I'm definitely interested in this version of Spider-Man. Spider-Man is one of my favorite characters. So I think that... so I'm very excited to see where they go with this. But at the same time, I'm a little worried because I feel like they just have too many villains and too many characters in general. So I've got one last thing. And this is a very scary story if you're like me.
A bitch?
Well, it's one way to look at it. I won't give away the headline, because it'll give away the story, even though the first line of the story will give away the story. But this is from the Washington Post. The artist is Ben Guarino.
Go Ben!
Here we go. Okay. Something sinister may be afoot in the woods of Greenville, South Carolina, and if so, its shoes are comically oversized. Clown sightings, as reported by residents of Fleetwood Manor Apartments, have alarmed local parents and set the community on edge. Per a letter distributed to residents of the community and then posted to Facebook on Friday, the property manager warned of a clown or a person dressed in clown clothing who was trying to lure children in the woods. It is the latest in a recent string of clowns reported as real-life menaces. Now, I hope to God this is some kind of joke, but, like, that shit right there is exactly why I'm afraid of clowns. And, like, I think they get into it a little bit later, because this is not the exact article I read about the story, but I did read about the story a couple days ago. But I think these apartments are, like, right next to the woods, which is why the clowns are trying to lure them into the woods. But still, that is creepy as hell.
Creepy.
So, anyway, it continues. Although the evidence is sparse, the Greenville County Sheriff's Office is investigating the clown complaints. Many of you have inquired about clowns being spotted in the woods near Fleetwood Manor Apartments, said Drew Pinciaro, a Greenville County deputy, in a statement Monday, according to WYFF News 4. As of today's date, he said, there has been one incident report filed with our office regarding this. In the incident report, one woman said she saw several clowns in the woods, flashing green laser lights on August 19th. The next sight, she said, her son could make out the sounds of chains and banging. Oh my god, this is terrifying. Like, if this is a prank, like, this is an awesome prank, but if this is, like, real, I would move the hell out of that apartment, like, one day after this stuff happened. Like, it said it happened August 19th, I'd be out August 20th. No lie. Chains and banging coming from outside their front door. Outside their front door. Like, that's not even in the woods. That's literally at the apartment. That is horrifying. A different person said a clown with large, winking nose was hanging out near the dumpsters early one Saturday morning.
How does one's nose wink?
That's, like, I don't know. Maybe, I guess he meant, like, a honking nose or something. Maybe it went like, honk, honk. But I don't know what he could mean by winking nose.
Could be like an autocorrect or something.
Maybe. Fleetwood Manor resident James Arnold told BuzzFeed News, oh yeah, BuzzFeed, then you know it's reliable, that his children, ages 10 and 13, described clowns out there in the woods, and they're trying to get us to come out there, he said. Some had chains, some had knives, and some were holding out money, saying, come here, we've got candy for you. But they wouldn't go. God, these kids were smart. That's like the one good part of the story, because the rest of this is horrifying. His wife, Donna, said she filed the report and invoked the miniseries adaptation of Stephen King's It about a creature that takes the form of a clown to stalk children. Running recurring theme in this episode, I guess. If what the Arnolds saw mimicked It, they could hardly be faulted for being so distraught. In the long descent from court jester to made-up face of villainy, It, when King published the horror novel in 1986, marked the changing of the cultural tide against clowns. Clowns could be threatening characters made worse by the fact that there was real-world precedent for evil jesters. In the decade before the book's release, serial killer John Wayne Gacy, convicted of raping and killing 33 men and boys, occasionally performed as a clown named Pogo. I don't care about this. Is there not any more of the kids? Okay, here we go. The South Carolina incident is not the first time disturbing clowns have been reported by witnesses. Earlier in August, Wisconsin police fielded calls about a dirty clown, oh god, a dirty clown, wandering Green Bay carrying black balloons. That's horrifying. And in October 2014, a rash of hooligans, I remember hearing about this, and spooky clown costumes were spotted across the United States, reported ABC. That month, more than a dozen French teenagers dressed as clowns were arrested for harassing strangers. It was one episode in what The Atlantic called France's clown outbreak that in turn spawned anti-clown vigilantes, the Chasseurs de Clowns. I'm just glad that there are, like, people, like, I'm glad that it's not just me that finds these things horrifying. Like, if you ever wanted to know why I'm afraid of clowns, like, shit like that is why. And like I said, I hope it's just all a joke, because those ones in 2014, the one I specifically remember reading about was, he was like the Staten Island clown, and like at first he would just appear and like chilling under bridges and random scary places, but then I think after a while he like turned it into a little business for himself. Which, hey, if it works, man. But, like, I'd much rather that be the case than it really be, like, clowns, like, trying to lure kids into the woods. That's scary. That's horrifying.
It's gross.
That, too. So that's all I've got this week. Do you want to end it there, or should we do a couple songs? What do you think? I'll leave it up to you.
Do a song.
Okay. We'll do one song. I figure it's been a couple weeks since we've done one because I didn't do any. What?
It's been a while.
I did miss an opportunity. You're right. I didn't do any on the solo episode because one of my favorite parts of doing this is your reaction. I think we did this one, so I'm gonna.
Oh my god, this time is not to react.
So this is called Lesson Learned. Why are they using it?
So what are we learning today?
Let's find out. Oh god, I already hate it. Life hasn't been perfect, everyone knows that. But it was a great experience, no shat. Apparently,
I think you coined the term shat.
No, I've heard it before, because I'm not that smart.
True.
I definitely wasn't that smart at that age anyway.
Yeah, we can tell.
I would do it all again in a heartbeat, even if it meant living on the street. And that's the intro. Verse 1. I learned the easiest lessons the hardest ways. I totally stole that from a Green Day song. I remember that. But I've enjoyed every single one of my days. Even the bad shit I did taught me something. Some of it really had my heart pumping. It was worth every second, no doubt about it. I wouldn't change anything, not even a single fit, I guess.
Bit?
No, that's an F. A bit would have made more sense, but, you know, sense was not what I did. I did something I wasn't supposed to. Lesson learned. Then this is in parenthesis, so I'm guessing I was either gonna have somebody else sing this part, or I was gonna sing it like you know, lay down the first part and then do the second part. What? Second.
Lay down the first part.
Okay. Anyway, found out the difference between right and wrong. Lesson learned. Got the inspiration to write this song. Lesson learned. Now I know enough of what I need. I learned the lesson, and now I don't bite the hand that feeds.
Lesson learned.
Why didn't I put it there? What is wrong with me? Okay, verse 2. Sometimes I was a thief, sometimes a crook. I never gave, I only took. It wasn't smart, but it made me better. Now I'll know for when I'm put in the shredder, which I feel like is a line I've done before. And then back to the chorus. I did something I wasn't supposed to do. Lesson learned. I didn't want to, but I went through.
Lesson learned.
Found out the difference between right and wrong. Lesson learned. Got the inspiration to write this song. Lesson learned. Now I know enough of what I need. I learned the lesson, and now I don't bite the hand that feeds. Lesson learned. I don't know why I didn't put it on those two. It would have made more flow.
For shizzle.
Verse 3. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while, even though I'm now on trial. I never could have seen it coming, and now I'm ashamed of all the slumming. Don't get me wrong, I really did enjoy. Of course I did. I was just a stupid boy. And then
You were hard back in the day.
I did something I wasn't supposed to do. Lesson learned. I didn't want to, but I went through. Lesson learned. Found out the difference between right and wrong.
Lesson learned.
Got the inspiration to write this song.
Lesson learned.
Now I know enough of what I need. Lesson learned. I learned the lesson, and now I don't bite the hand that feeds. Lesson learned.
So how'd it go slumming?
I don't know. But, yeah. I'm glad we did that, because, God, that was terrible. So bad.
Fucking sad.
Lesson learned. You think that should be the title of this episode?
Let's title it that.
Alright, sounds good to me. So, Before we end, I'll just say keep an eye out for them clowns, people, because like I said, that's horrifying. Like, all of it. Just so bad. But yeah, that's it for this week. We'll come back next week. Hopefully we'll talk about Halloween 3 and 4. Or at least 3. I'd like to try and do 2.
Or fuck the rest of them.
Just one whole episode all about that. We finish it before it's even October.
Well, we have plenty of series to go through.
That is true. I think that'd be a fun thing to do, because like I mentioned previously, I do want to do a commentary for one movie, but like I think this is kind of fun too, like to watch a movie and then write down all the silly or bad parts or whatever. So hopefully everybody enjoyed it as much as we did. But I guess that'll be it for now. So for the Morose Project, I'm Brad Rosen.
I'm Aaron Moore.
And always remember, folks, fat guys try harder.
This is battery acid, you slime.